Hello, everyone, and I'm Xicheng Yang from University of Reading, and I've recently passed my PhD Viva, and today's topic is also related to my PhD research. It's titled From Archival Forms to Digital Typefaces, a systematic framework for reviving extinct single-form script, the Tangut case. It is a practice-based research project that combines historical research with typeface design. Back in 2021, I worked on the redesign of Notoserf Tangut for Google Fonts. And during the design process, our team find a lot of interesting things from our investigations on historical sources, and we upgraded the previous design. You can see the comparison there. But because of the limited time and I couldn't spend as much time on research as I wanted, and then I also realized there was no existing research on Tangut type design, and that's how I started my PhD research. So my PhD research focused on this question: how can the systematic analysis of archival sources generate design insights for Tangled characters that support contemporary digital environment while remaining responsive to script-specific features and historical forms? To answer this question, the thesis developed a systematic method for analyzing archival materials and then use oh, practical typeface design to demonstrate how those analysis can be translated into type decisions. Oh, I don't know. This is full screen showing the, yeah, maybe.
maybe I can turn this off.
What is cool. And as you can see here, this thesis has two main parts, analysis part and practice-based type design part. Although this method is developed using the Tango script, many of its steps can be potentially be applied to other revival projects, and I will explain this framework later. Before introducing the method, I will briefly introduce the Tangut script. The Tangut script was used in the Tangut Empire, which existed between the 11th and 13th centuries. It was located in current northwestern China. And the script was created within 4 years, and the whole characters is almost 7,000 characters. After the fall of the Tangut Empire, the script gradually became extinct. For a long time, it remained largely inaccessible until major discoveries were made in the early 20th century. During the 20th century, a large number of Tangled manuscripts and printed documents were discovered. As a result, a new discipline, Tanglutology, was established, and many research publications followed, providing a need for Tangled script to be digitalized as typefaces, mainly for the academic use. The Tango script was encoded in Unicode in 2016. Before that, Tango characters were usually shown by handwritten copies using the font, which has its own code systems or occupies a private code point. After encoding, 8 Unicode compliant Tango typefaces have been developed. However, most of them are directly scanned from the handwritten form, so you can see the outlines are not very smooth. Despite this problem, a key problem still remains. Also, Tangut has rich archival materials. It lacks a continuous typographic evolution, and there are no native Tangut people exist. This means every design decision involves interpretation based on the understanding on the archival document. So the question becomes, how can we systematically translate archival forms into contemporary digital typefaces? Although there are not many revival projects and there is very little documentation explaining how the design decisions were made, this gap is also one of the starting point of this research, and it is what this thesis aims to address. This research proposed a design lead an analytical framework with 4 steps. First is the script level analysis, as we figure out the script core elements, structure, and writing sequence. And then second is focused archival analysis. We zoom in on the archival document to see the specific elements on the documents, for example, the shape of in-strokes, out-strokes, and then is the typography context analysis, or figure out where the revival typeface will be used, determine user requirement, and analyze related existing typefaces to identify the design gaps, and then move to the early stage design process. We establish the fundamental design rules, metrics, and stylistic parameters. And I will now use the Tango script to show how these stages work in practice. The first stage is a script level analysis. Although Tango script is extinct, luckily it has a very close relationship with Hanzi. So it was created in a very short time. So we all know like writing system can't form in like very short time. So it definitely need the reference, and the reference is Chinese character Hanzi. And you can see the similarities of these two scripts. Because of this, this thesis begins by introducing basic Hanzi concepts, such as how many types of the strokes, composition structures, and stroke order, and then compares them with the Tango script to see what's similar and what's different. The next stage is a close analysis of Tango stroke forms. This analysis is done from 2 perspectives, stroke influenced by tools and stroke influenced by the character structure. And I will now use 2 examples to explain it. The first example is a tool-related stroke form. The outstroke of this vertical stroke, 树, shows 3 variations within a single character. Through analysis, I find that the pattern B appears consistently with when the stroke is the final vertical stroke of the character or its position in the right bottom corner of a component. To understand this pattern, I compared examples from different media, and then I find this feature remains stable across manuscript, woodblock printings, and mobile type printings. In manuscript, the feature is establishedly pronounced. Imagine we writing with a brush, and scribes often lift the brush a little bit while moving downward at the end of the stroke, and then the brush naturally go to find the character like underneath this character. So it naturally creates this kind of extension. Um, I also compared with Hanzi materials. In running hand Hanzi calligraphy 行书, we can see similar feature appear, but in a more formal handwritten or printing material, this feature is not that obvious. But in Tango script, this feature is preserved across different media, showing that it is part of the script feature. The second example is the structure-related stroke variation. Some stroke change shape depending on their position within the character in order to maintain a stable structure. For example, the stroke look like 3 when it's positioned on the top left corner. The second horizontal stroke is parallel with the first horizontal stroke and has an upright order, and this allowed give more space for the part underneath this stroke. But the same stroke, when it's used in the bottom right corner, the second horizontal line has a downward angle to make the whole structure more stable and also fill more empty space in that character. And there are more like stroke analysis in my thesis, but I'm not going through all of them here. After the focus archival analysis, the next stage is typography context analysis. This begins by asking how the typeface will actually be used. For example, Tangut is often used in short phrases in another, like long text in another script, or one line of Tangut script and another line of the translation in another script, or this kind of a more chaotic situation have multiple strokes and some symbols, or vertical typesetting, or paragraph exclusively in Tango script. A different situation gives Tango typefaces different functional requirements. For example, like say you want to highlight the Tango script in the paragraph or make it more like blended, like more compatible with other script. And this links to the next consideration, which is what does the user want? Except the functional requirement, users also have personal preference on the typeface style. For instance, Chinese Tangu scholars often prefer styles close to archival manuscript, similar to brush-written Kaiti forms. So we can see this is a Kaiti Chinese typeface, and this is Kaiti form Tangu typeface. And Japanese scholars, they prefer a more typographic style. And for example, that one is Mintro style Japanese typeface, and it's a more Mintro style Tango typeface. And inspired by the diagram in the book, Designing Type Revivals, is they have a spectrum to one end is literal, one is aesthetic, and then put the Latin typeface along this axis. I also made the Tangut version. So one end is close to original appearance of historical document, and another end is close to commonly used contemporary typeface styles. And I mapped existing Tangut typeface along this spectrum to see where is still the room to explore and what are the current typefaces concentrated on. I also developed a Tangut typeface in my research called Tangut Books, and it's roughly positioned here. So before starting the design, it is also necessary to select suitable reference document, and this usually involves a summary, summarizing a general style from multiple sources and choosing the most consistent examples, and prioritize image resolution and choose document over cover more characters. The same approach is used when selecting the reference characters. All stroke types are identified in the script level analysis. According to that, characters that contain these strokes are selected, as these strokes appear a lot of times in the archival documents. So after seeing a lot of documents, you need to summarize a general consistent style in your head and then choose the most representative examples. The common situation is we can't really see what does this form exactly look like in the reference document. For example, like the circle part is quite blurry. We don't know what exactly it look like. And designer need to define the form by comparing and summarizing multiple examples collected earlier. In other cases, directly copying an archival form can create visual problem, such as this area is a bit too dark. In this situation, it might require uh, adjustment from designer, but this is also depends on your design concept. Say if you want to stay super true to the archive, maybe you don't have to change it. The design process can be summarized as you select a reference character, outline it, adjust it for better typographic performance, and then test it in real usage context, and then have a result. This process led to two main design decisions in my research. The design on the left is closer to archival document, and it works better with Kaiti typeface. Another design was adjusted to compatible more to other Songti or Mingqiu style. So the same reference on the different design priorities leads to different valid outcomes. And this is the comparison of the reference characters and both design decisions. According to the user preference and usage, designer can decide which way to go or keep both of them. The initial character set covers all identified stroke types. Some strokes have multiple variants, reflecting the findings from the earlier analysis. And here is the vertical strokes I introduced earlier. And in Tangled Books design, I choose two patterns, pattern A and B, and the B is the extended one. And this is the another stroke I discussed earlier. And for the one used on the top left corner, I have them have an upright angle and it's parallel to each other. And then if it's used on the bottom right, it's got a downward angle. And other design decisions, like every is stayed related to the what I find in the archival document. For example, the in stroke there, and this out stroke also have two different patterns. On that one, the stroke look like Z, and it's got a tapering shape, and when it's to avoid the darkness on the cross strokes. And then this turning is more squared, and the out stroke is extended. Also, I have a new finding on this stroke. In the redesigned Notoserf Tangut, we identified the highlight blue strokes as different strokes and combined that two Chinese component like strokes together to make the Tangut version. But in my PhD research, I find these two strokes are actually the same one. And then in Tangled Books, I like redesigned it. Learning from Hanzi is not wrong, but we need to be very careful. Actually, established Hanzi typeface design method also helped me when designing Tangle script. So the concept of the Zhonggong, we call it translated as central palace of a character. And this concept helped me to check visual balance and consistency across characters. So before I find the blue one is a bit later, a bit small, and then after I change it, so it's like more consistent. Characters are then tested in real typographic environment. These are the test results, and I'll show two examples of them. First is when Tango script is used as a short phrase surrounded by another script. In this case, you might want to highlight the word. You can choose to use quotation marks or use a secondary style, similar to use italics in Roman Latin typeface. Another example is a more complicated multiple script and simple situation. In this case, you might want to reduce the visual noise and distractions. So maybe using secondary style is not very ideal decision. To summarize, these are the 4 steps of the framework developed in the thesis, and they are especially useful for script with closer historical relationships, such as those derived from Hanzi. We call them like sinoform script. There are also some limitations of this framework. First, the method depends on availability of archival materials. Second, not all script has a strong comparative partner like Hanzi and Tangut. Third, this research focus only on the early analytical and conceptual stage of type design, not the full-scale production. And that's all of my presentation. Thank you much for listening. Also brought some stickers. If you're interested, you can come to grab some. Thank you.
Here, I'll plug it in while you take this. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the audience today? Very comprehensive process. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
You kind of touched on it at the end, but I was just curious if you could say more about the other historical Sinoform scripts like Jurchen and Khitan and whatever else.
Yeah.
Have you, sorry if I take us through something, if you said this already, have you like, are you interested, have you started applying in this paper to those scripts? Do you think that they would work? Or, I was just curious, but also really good thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually my future plan because I really want to test it in other similar script too. But for my PhD research, it's only focused on Tango script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Non-Chinese archive that writings. Do you think your research is also be implemented on?
I think thank you. I think some of the steps. I think maybe it's also can be like it's the same method of analyzing things, but I'm just be like careful of limit my skill. But most like say if it's archival based research, maybe something it's like common similar you can also using that research too.
You have this picture of visual reference writing system.
Yeah.
This method is.
Yeah.
I have another question. So after you develop your Tango font, you said this Chinese font works best. Is there any objective criteria or it's just designer intuition?
Oh, sorry.
Which makes the font look better?
You mean the Tangut font look?
Yeah, Tango.
Oh, you mean the grid one to like the Zhongguo concept and then upgrade it or?
I remember somewhere in your slide it said we just compare the same characters multiple times.
Yeah.
That this font is. I was wondering, is there any criteria that the designer think this is the best.
This is difficult. Yeah. Sorry, if I understand you. I think it's like
Reference material that you've taken in.
reference material.
The second point that you, within your frame, the samples that you've taken, the specimens, is that right?
I think so, yeah. So you compare the same characters in different fonts,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you said
So
this Chinese font work.
yeah, I get it. So those typeface that font are like commonly used font in the Tangut research papers. And so that's a real usage situation. And I put my Tangut font inside to test if it worked better with it. And I said it works better with that style because it's not about their better, like good or bad. It's just say they are similar style and they have the same feeling of it. So I said it's more compatible with that font style. Yes, so it's like say a big calligraphy style is more compatible with another calligraphic typeface, and another more like typographic, say, Song Ti Mingchao style is more squared, and another like more squared, similar feelings of Tango script work better with that. Yeah, that's what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Looking back to the framework slide.
Yes.
Maybe you can expand on it, but I really find this useful. I took a presentation out on the second year, but yeah. Yeah. Any extra points on the framework that you got or
Extra work.
Any extra points?
Extra points.
Anything specific you'd like me to expand on?
maybe the typographic context analysis. Because sometimes it can be quite hard to when you're looking at it from a modern lens, maybe it's hard to understand where exactly typeface was created. It's very easy.
For my case, because this script have a very limited usage, it's only used in like academic papers or some tourist place of the signage and then the merch of the museum. So it's very easy to figure out where it's used, and yeah, that's an easy case for me. But if you're talking about another script or probably it's more complicated. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.